Hi, I'm Ryan.
Hey, I'm Jesse, and you're listening to Your Therapist Is Not Okay.
On this episode, we're going to continue talking about how we would like you to fight with your partner and healthy ways to engage in conflict. It's really going to be thinking about the therapist side of like, what are our tips and tricks to have healthy, productive conflict instead of fearing conflict or having conflict be something that harms us and our relationships.
We ended the last episode really setting the scene for this one. Basically, saying that if conflict is done really well, it can be actually one of the ways that many couples therapists think that the relationship has now started. You're moving into a deeper form of relating. And for many couples therapists, that means that you're really connecting, bonding, and growing deeper with your partner or
Mhm.
friend. And this episode's going to be all about the why we think that and how conflict is actually a way to come closer, not farther apart from anyone we're in relationship. For the most part, and for ease of listening, we're probably just going to say partner, but you really could be anyone that you're having conflict with.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Conflicts come up in all our relationships, and knowing how to manage it well makes a huge difference in whether we're being hurt and hurting others, or if we're taking these as opportunities to know ourselves and to know our partners better.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's start by kind of thinking what is good or what can be good about conflict?
Yeah, there are so many opportunities in it to really think about what needs we have that are not being met. What are we ignoring? What do we really need to have a healthy, fulfilling relationship? And what do the people we're in relationships with need to have a healthy and fulfilling relationship? It's really a deeper knowing and understanding of the other people.
Yes. And this does take a lot of us knowing ourselves.
Mhm.
And so if you're feeling a certain kind of hurt or dismissal or something's not being met, you really got to do that work yourself to understand what's actually happening in your body. What do we actually feel that's not being met? Or what's happening to us that we're not quite liking? Once we know that, that's the start of healthy conflict.
Mhm.
I often think about it in the term, what's the dirt under the rug? What would be something I might want to sweep under there that's going to collect and collect and collect unless I say something?
Mhm.
And if we're able to actually pick it up, like look underneath, sweep back under, and clean that, it actually means that nothing's going to build up to have resentment, bitterness, or some of these negative conflict patterns that we were talking about in the previous episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those things can really start to eat and gnaw away at us and kind of erode the bedrock of our relationship and become just like an ongoing theme across the course of the relationship that it feels like we're always stuck in because it never actually got resolved.
Yeah.
Conflict is such an important way to actually have that resolution happen. Like you were saying, Jesse, like it is um, it's not easy, right? Like there's conflict can be good, but I don't want to give the message that like it's going to be easy or that you won't get hurt along the way. A lot of having healthy conflict is about giving our partners trust and getting a little bit hurt and then being able to engage in talking through what happened and how we can maybe do things differently in the future. But it is, yeah, a lot of that recognizing why was I hurt? What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. You've rubbed off on me. You always say absolutely after I talk, so I wanted to do it to you.
Oh my God.
Um, I think if even if we use the term fight or whatever we want to use with our partner, it is this aspect of trying to set up communication norms.
Mhm.
So one of the things you can do to have really healthy conflict that can actually be quite helpful is to actually say how you want the conversation to go. To set time aside with your partner to say, I have something I really want to talk to you about that I might be a bit vulnerable for me. can we set this time along? Because I actually think that there's a need I'd really love to have met here. You're setting up communication norms right from the get-go. We're not surprising our partner. We're not trying to wait until it happens and lash out at our partner. We're actually trying to fix it while our emotions are relatively calm.
Hmm.
And for both parties, whether or not you're the person that the partner's saying this to, or you're the partner saying this to, like who you actually are having conflict with, neither actually get off the hook with this. You both have to be willing and ready to hear the other person and to accept that. And this is a way for you to actually think about it as not only am I sharing something so they get to know me better, but actually also I get to allow them a window into me and maybe something that might be going on to them. There's this wonderful back and forth if we think about it as you wouldn't know this unless I told you. And unless I get to tell you in a healthy way, the need's going to stay unmet.
Mm. Mm. I like that idea of that kind of offering the structure that you're hoping for with a fight or a conflict, and just knowing that often the other person, because everyone's bringing their own relationship baggage and baggage from past fights into this, might be worried about what it is that you want. You might say, like, I'm feeling this kind of way, and they're like, oh God, so you want me to do this all the time? I always have to be doing this. I always have to be worried about this,
Yeah.
which may very well not be what you're asking for. So just giving them that clarity of like, all I actually need you to do is try to understand what I'm feeling, for example, right? Or all I'm really asking for is for you to ask me this question at the end of our conversations. That's all.
Yep. Yep. And for the partner that's receiving this, realize it's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you're not enough. And it's usually not the start of a breakup. In
Mhm.
fact, if someone's bringing you something that you're not meeting, it means they want to stay in relationship and they want to deepen that relationship. And that's a really helpful anchor. So many times the listening party in conflict feels like I'm not good enough. I can never do anything right. This person's going to leave me. I now have all these parameters of what I have to do. This is a bunch of now like rules that I have to follow. And that is an unhealthy way of thinking as a listener. As you said, Ryan, it's not going to be fun. This is probably not going to be easy, but no relationship is all the time fun and easy. This is one of the ways that you go deeper together. And it's a way to create what I love to say a pattern.
Mhm.
Because when you have that pattern established of active listening, mutual vulnerability, yeah, you're not having fun while you're doing it, but you're then creating a bedrock that is actually a foundation and can be
Yeah.
really nice. And so we're
Yeah.
going to give you some goals right now. We're going to go back into talking about how you might have fallen into some of the patterns we were talking about in the previous episode. And then we're going to actually dive into the nitty-gritty of how to have a conflict.
Yeah. So, some suggestions we have for how you might want to enter a conflict, enter a fight, some kind of goals or perspectives to take with you. Um, Often we can have this really strong desire, especially if we're activated, that we want to be understood. There's nothing wrong with that at all. All of us want to be understood. All of us want to be seen. But it can help to flip that around a little bit and have each party come in with the goal of understanding the other person. That helps kind of slow the conflict down a little bit and have people like really be checking in, making sure they're understanding, making sure they're making requests that make sense with the situation too. It just allows us to, instead of being frustrated that like you don't get it, be like, okay, I get it.
Mm,
I get it. And that is also an important part of setting up that pattern, that healthy relationship equilibrium of mutual vulnerability instead of one party vulnerability and the other party feeling defensive, guarded, feeling like, oh, I have all these rules, like you were saying, right?
yeah.
And something that can really drive that towards success is the kind of principle of curiosity. If someone says, I'm feeling this kind of way, just being able to respond with, like, oh, tell me more. When did
Hmm.
that come up? Does that happen often? Or a clarifying question about, like, oh, okay, you said this. Let me make sure that I understand. And then they can say, like, oh, I guess, it's a little bit more like this. Or, oh, thank you. Thanks for asking that. Like, I didn't even realize that you would know that I expect this.
Yeah.
Or that when you say this kind of thing, it makes me think you hate me. And having that non-defensiveness. So that coming in, recognizing that none of this is about me being bad. None of this is about failure. None of this is about inadequacy. This is just about two people each trying to understand the other.
I think those are exactly great goals.
Hmm.
Being able to like really think about like what is this person saying to me? How if they're giving me this kind of um thing that they need, how is that actually a gift that I get to unwrap and be curious about? And how can I do that in a way that allows me to still feel like I'm good and good enough in this relationship? Those would be, yeah, I think those are the top three goals that we would
Hmm.
want from both people, both listening parties. And I think when we were talking about the different types of kind of negative listening patterns or fights that can
Hmm.
happen, they actually each have a need attached to them. Um, that I think would be really helpful to kind of break down right now, just so that you don't feel so implicated if you're in one of these patterns. There's actually a kind way that we want to break them down for you. And the first one I would say is bickering. Bickering is a very common relationship pattern.
Hmm.
When you aren't having healthy conflict, you're generally going to fall into a tit for tat with your partner. You never do this. Well, you never do this. And it's that constant meeting. We were talking about that aspect of constantly trying to make the person feel how you're feeling.
Hmm.
And I think the main thing to understand is how are you feeling when this happens? That is the perfect way for you to understand why you might retaliate.
Hmm.
It brings it right back to what need isn't actually being met when your partner says, "Oh, wow, you didn't make dinner again. I guess I'll do it." What does that do to you? If you actually allow a curiosity in yourself instead of trying to retaliate, you're immediately starting to figure out what need isn't being met. That's
Hmm.
awesome. And sometimes there's something from the past or even what's happening right now that links in and maybe triggers you into responding in a way that protects you, protects that wound, that ego wound. And if we do this back and forth, we're never actually expressing our needs. We're just making the person feel as badly as we have been feeling. Nothing gets resolved and it continues and continues and continues because it creates a cycle.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I do say absolutely after everything you say.
I like it.
Yeah, it does become that cycle over and over again. And sometimes we're in that cycle because we don't want to be vulnerable. It's scary to be vulnerable and say, I'm feeling kind of taken advantage of because it seems like lately I always end up making dinner. And we can see how curiosity can disrupt the negative pattern of that. Because when someone even says it in a kind way like that, you could still come back and say, like, oh, well, I feel like I always do this. There's
Mhm.
always a way to make this bickering. But if you instead say, like, oh, okay, I'm wondering what would feel better for you. I'm wondering, if there's some way that I could help, even though I get home at 9, or, whatever is the thing, like to just be curious, to just lean in instead of pushing out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one we talked about last week was when one person is hurt. There's kind of an
Yeah.
agreement in the relationship where one person has been clearly wounded by the other, um, doing something that is not allowed in the relationship. We use the example of cheating as one example.
Yeah.
We talked about how the wounded party sometimes has this sense of power and intoxication, or wanting to hold that over them, and the party that did the wounding, like having a lot of guilt, feeling maybe like I'm going to be making up for this forever.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. And that can be really tricky because the work here is recognizing it's going to take time.
Hmm.
Absolutely. We're not saying rush to this, but if you decide to stay, the wounded party has a lot of work to do with forgiveness.
Hmm.
And both parties have a lot of work to do on rebuilding trust. But if you hold it over your partner to continue to feel that sense of power or that they know that they did wrong, probably based in fear, truly, you're not going to be able to bring that relationship to depth because both people are going to constantly feel like they're on a back foot.
Hmm. Something that defensiveness or holding this over the other can cause is a fear of vulnerability that like if I say what's coming up, what's going on, then that's going to be me continuing to be bad or me, opening myself up to be hurt again. If
Mm.
you want to be in this relationship, trust is about giving people opportunities to hurt us. We
Oof.
have to give them those opportunities to hurt us. And then if they continue to hurt us, we might have a decision to make.
Yep.
But if we never give the opportunity to hurt again, then there's no potential for trust to be rebuilt. It's also, I think, important to recognize that there are kind of two things that often build trust, and that is that like honesty, and when you ask something and sharing openly. The other thing is actually transparency can build a lot more trust than just honestly answering questions. If you tell someone things that happen, things that come up for you, without them having to pry, that often helps people feel like, okay, there's nothing secret, there's nothing hidden. I know what's going on. And then they can make a decision about like, and I'm happy with this, or and I'm not happy with this.
The next one we talked about is a tricky one
Mm,
because this one probably doesn't feel like it's going to be a nice thing to say. And that is when there's a threat from your partner and you might need to feel a need to bring them down to control. So, what we were using last time was this idea of maybe your partner shines bigger in a social situation, or maybe they make more money,
mhm,
or they're better liked, more popular, whatever it is. There's something about your partner that we feel we need to bring down a notch. Truthfully, this is almost always built on some old wound that you're not addressing. We call this in psychodynamics the shadow. What is the shadow that's getting triggered here? That you're not good enough, that you want to need to be met, or that you want to be the one that people look at? Is it envy, jealousy? Is there something about your pride that's been wounded? This is excellent information. If there's something that someone's doing that actually feels like it's hurting us and we want to bring them down, that's our problem that we need to sort out and then have healthy communication. So
mhm,
instead of trying to bring down your partner to your level, a conversation of saying, I've noticed that when we're out and everyone's paying attention to you, I can feel kind of lost in that shadow that of your brightness. That's really hard to say to a partner because
mhm.
they have the opportunity to fully hurt you if you do express that. But this is actually one of the most beautiful things you can do because if it's met with, again, non-defensiveness, curiosity, and understanding, your partner's probably going to be like, oh, I actually do see you sometimes like get quieter when we're with friends. What do you need in this moment? Like that is cool and scary as hell to do. That one's a tough one.
Yeah. It's a very vulnerable one because it so often is just about the way we relate with others and the way we relate with the world. Having a way to have your partner know that about you and kind of be your ally in it can be really helpful. And this would be different for everyone and different contexts, right? There are lots of people that are very happy to have someone else shine brighter because they don't want that. And there also might be people who are shining really bright and they're working their ass off to do it. And so just hearing that, like, you don't have to do that. You could pass the ball to me and I would enjoy that. And also you would have the pressure off you. These are just examples. And
Yeah.
like, you'll never know unless you have this difficult conversation. It can also be an opportunity to open with, or, at some point, make sure to express appreciation for your
Mm,
partner's success, for their strengths, for that, like, it's so cool how you can own a room. It's so cool how you make other people light up.
mm,
Just recognizing that your relationship and your life is not a competition.
yeah.
Everyone can shine in their own way. Um, and so that also helps it not feel like you're saying to your partner, take up less space or too much. Because that's not
Yeah.
the message we want to send them away with. And it is the message, if it is the message we want to send them away with, that's a place where you need to do some self-work
You got to do
and
some work.
concern, right? You're falling back into more of the bickering,
Yeah.
treating your partner as a threat instead of an ally.
Yeah.
Um, and then there can also be certain situations that come up where partners are talking about success in a certain way that kind of activates you, especially if there's some comparison going on where you want to call that in and say like, hey, when you're saying like, hey, I make so much more money than you, is that something that bothers you? Is that something we need to talk about? Because when you say it like that, it just makes me feel very devalued.
Mm.
Yeah, I thought I thought we were kind of in a place where we were comfortable that I offer other things to this relationship. And again, one of the scariest things about conflict is it might lead us to make a decision. It might lead us to say like, oh, okay, I'm not okay being the partner that pays for everything. And that might mean you have to make a decision about a relationship.
I like that you said these are just examples because even as you were talking, I was thinking of so many more, like starting to have a relationship that's open
Hmm.
or losing weight, going like having one partner that's actually like really excited about their fitness journey or whatever it is.
Hmm.
There's so many. And you know what? You're right, Ryan. It's often in the moment that we feel this trigger. We might not even be able to go into a relationship knowing that this might be a weak point. And that's actually one of the rare things that relationships give us, that we actually learn more about ourselves in relationship and in conflict than we generally do um, outside of that. And that can be with friendships, it can be with colleagues, it can be with anyone. Realizing in the moment, oh, this is saying something about me rather than it's saying something about my partner is really
Hmm.
helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of that just idea of working inside out instead of saying you need to do this because I want it, and instead saying like, oh, okay, I'm noticing this about myself.
Yeah.
What can we do? We also talked about the kind of conflict and fights that can arise when you have a common problem, because you share a space and maybe there's something is damaged in the home, or you're finding a new home. All kinds of different examples where you have a crisis you have to address. Maybe a family member is sick. Maybe someone loses their job. These kinds of things. So you have this problem that is going to impact you both or you all. This can be a really beautiful thing if we let it be, right? I often think about like, a healthy relationship being one where you can come to the kitchen table and say like, okay, we have this problem.
Yeah.
What can we do? What do you think? What are some solutions that we can have together? What's your perspective? What's my perspective? For this to work well, you really have to set down the assumption that there's going to be one right way or that your way is the only way. Um, because that leads to this kind of competition that actually reduces your problem solving capacity as a couple. And you want to make sure that you're using both people's gifts, abilities, resources to their maximum. Conflicts will always go poorly if there's a winner and a loser.
Oh, yeah. I think you've probably picked up by now that all of this is about statements of needs. This idea of being able to be vulnerable, ask for something, share something about yourself. And no matter what we're doing, if we're doing that, we're not going to fall into that tit for tat. We're not going to fall into devaluing our partner because we feel threatened. We're not going to feel like something that's happened as a common problem or something that's been a betrayal of some sort necessarily needs to end. Ryan keeps saying the thing of you might need to make a decision. Lean into that. That's a really important and good thing that we might be avoiding conflict because of. But
Hmm.
that actually is essential because no matter what you do, you're choosing a relationship again and again and again. And that kind of feeling of being able to realize that even in conflict is just kind of an important thing.
Hmm.
So we're going to give you exactly what we would want you to do in a conflict. We've told you the goals, we've told you how you got there. Let's start with how do we actually have fight?
Hmm.
And that's reparative instead of demeaning or belittling or something where someone's vulnerable and the other person doesn't meet them in that.
Hmm. A lot of the kind of goals that we've suggested and the assumptions that we've said will help you get places are really based in this foundation of listening well, of really making sure that you're attending to the things that your partner is saying instead of attending to your reactions to the things your partner is saying. You might be able to tell that you're not listening well if you're waiting for your turn to respond instead of absorbing the things that are coming. If we're just sitting there waiting and thinking like the first thing they said was this, and I want to say this to this,
Mm.
then we're gonna miss everything else they're saying, right? And try to make sure to understand what they're saying and why it matters to them.
I love that. Oof, that
Mm.
was good. One of the ways you can do that as a good strategy is to think, I'm going to reflect this back to them. This isn't a repetition of words. It might feel odd to do. It is one of the most incredible strategies you can use as a listening partner to make the other person feel safe and non-defensive. Trust
Mm.
me. Give it a try. So, for example, as Ryan's talking to me, let's say we're having a conflict, if I'm thinking, well, like, let's say, okay, let's use an example. You always come to Toronto to visit me. I don't come to New York to visit you. Let's say that's become a problem in our friendship.
Okay.
If I'm thinking like, well, yeah, but like I help you get like a flight here because of centered self, I'm not listening to you.
Mm.
And so what I might do is say, I'm actually really hearing that there's a bit of a disparity here, that you're always coming to me.
Mm.
I can imagine, and then you can add in something. This is not my POV time. This is me listening to Ryan time. I can say, I can imagine that makes it feel kind of like one-sided that you're putting in maybe more effort than I. This would allow the other person to feel seen and heard. Your time for your point of view will come. It's not going to be right after a partner speaks. That
Mm.
is your time to show them that you've heard them. If you do this, you will watch any conflict you've ever had immediately become conversation instead of an escalated fight.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess it's important to acknowledge that these work best when both people are willing to do them, right? If one person is doing all the reflecting and the other person is being more combative, then that's not. For a good reparative conflict, both parties have to be willing to engage in it. Um, and make sure that when your partner reflects something back to you, that you let them know if they got it right or not, right? So
Yeah.
clarify if you're like, oh, it's not quite that, and or say like, yeah, that is how I feel about it,
Yeah.
because then you're getting just confirmation all sides that like we're on the same page, we're understanding what's going on. And it can really help to thank partners when they share vulnerable things, even if there are things that like might sting a little bit in some way, to be like, okay, thank you for telling me that. If you hadn't told me that, I wouldn't know and we couldn't do anything about it. So thanking them for their vulnerability, their courage to bring stuff up. Um, yeah.
And then you can have your time to share
Hmm.
and say, I actually thought we were on the same page, Ryan, because, da da da, like of those kinds
Hmm.
of aspects of being able to say from your POV. If then you repeat back, oh, I could see how you thought we were kind of
Hmm.
equal because of this. You're now creating this beautiful moment of recognizing and problem solving together. And this is exactly once you've met that, you'll notice hackles are not raised. And this is when you can actually do change.
Mhm.
And this is fun. This part can be really fun. What would make this feel really good for you? How could we work together to make sure that you feel safe in a social situation or that you might not be bringing in the same amount of money? How can we work to make sure that this feels life-giving for both of us?
Mhm. And when there's an opportunity to just right away do it, right? If someone's talking about validation, something being expressed directly, these kinds of things that you can just do in the conversation, just start doing it right away. It'll take
Yep.
time to build a habit, but just having it done once right then is very affirming. It's almost another form of that listening well, because you're saying like, I have received this and I can do this.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes you might need to say like, I don't think I can do that. I can do
Mhm.
this, right? So
Yep.
it becomes a problem-solving collaboration. Um, for anyone in the relationship, but especially if one partner's hurt and that's why they're bringing this up, you have to know that your partner is not a mind reader. You have to say the thing. You have to say it. And we can get really caught up on being afraid of saying it or being afraid that we're going to say it wrong. Just say it.
This is when I'm challenging clients of mine, that is
Hmm.
exactly what I'll say. You know how you said last episode, like, have you talked to them about this? And they're like, nah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get into this habit of thinking, if I have to tell you, then you doing it won't matter anymore. That is another challenge I'm going to have to you. If you want something like praise, affirmation, physical touch, flowers on your birthday, it does not matter. And your partner does it, that's a good thing. And it's not demeaned because you have to tell them. It means they're listening to you and they're meeting your needs. And they will not know you need that unless you tell them. And so that is one of the most important things to remember that when change is happening, you're no longer in conflict. You're actually in rebuilding, repairing, and in a sense, creating a bigger foundation and pattern of change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when we're talking about being vulnerable about our needs or something that has hurt us. Um, this is good conflict, right? Exactly as Jesse's saying there, like this is productive. This is not bickering. This is not trying to hurt the other person. This is sharing what's going on for us, hearing what's going on for them, and then seeing where we can match up, where we can meet each other in that instead of just where the other person's not good enough or where we're not feeling good enough. Um, and that's so meaningful. That can be the thing that makes a relationship one where we don't we don't ever fight about who's traveling to Toronto and who's traveling to New York because it's not a thing. And if it were a thing, we would be able to bring it up. Um,
I really just picked something. I was like, what could
I
Ryan
know
and
it's
I
such a
fight?
random thing. I was like, I want our listeners to know this is not a thing.
No, it's not a thing. But I needed an example and I was doing it in real time,
I can
okay?
see, yeah, I can know, I can totally understand where like that might be a thing for some people.
This is a really lovely one. Once this is done and your partner, friend is doing the thing, one of the greatest ways to keep this up, because one of the fears is like, are they just going to do it for a short time and fall back into old
Mm,
patterns? One of the greatest ways to solidify this is praise, reinforcement. Thank you so much when we were out with friends of just like celebrating my job promotion. It made me feel really alive and seen. Those things reinforce in our partner's mind. Also allows them to see that their efforts are actually being noticed.
mhm,
And every single human alive loves reinforcement. We want to know we're doing it right. We want to know that this matters to somebody and that we're seen and heard. And so if you reinforce it, this is a pattern now that's now getting established where
mhm.
this is a lovely thing I can continue to do because I'm also being seen and met in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes such a big difference and it validates the effort that our partners are putting in. Yeah. those are a lot of our, big thoughts about how to have a healthy conflict, how to have
Yeah.
fights that build trust and build connection instead of breaking each other down.
Yeah. And if you ever want to know why you would go to a couples therapist, it's that they would do this with you in
Yeah.
real time. So see one if you feel like it. We have relationship couples counselors at Centered Self. So if you
Mhm.
wanted to see some, reach out to us. But this is just the start of you being able to be great with your partner. So hopefully that helped.
Thanks for listening.
Till next time. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, check out our others. And stay tuned for even more episodes coming up.
Follow us and leave a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please tell your friends.
You can also follow us on Instagram too at Your Therapist Is Not Okay. Also, if you have any questions that you want us to answer, send us a DM there. We would love to answer your questions. And a lot of our topics come from listeners just like you.